Well, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome in to the Tanso Racing Group Season 9. We are on round 6 here at the Mugello Grand Prix circuit. Some great racing we have coming up for you today. 18 degrees in the air today here at Mugello, with a 45% chance of the old rain and wet surfaces. And we have clear skies at the moment though, so nothing to worry about just yet. 2 mile/hour wind, so nothing too major for these drivers to deal with. Obviously we're on round 6 and coming up to the final part of the season now. Not many rounds left on the calendar. Heat 1 and Heat 2 will be brought to you today by myself. Obviously this season is sponsored by the Aqua Twist, and their logo is normally in the top left corner. However, that has had some issues with that today, so we'll get that sorted for next time. TS liveries, obviously bottom corners as well, and that is also a secondary sponsor for this season. Now, without further ado, let's look at some of the points then so far. So, looking at the AMs, we have Peter Duke leading the way at the moment with 417 points. Scott Brown just in behind at 370, then Craig Corish on 290. Then we have Michael Walters on 284, Adrian Hadfield on 281, Tim Walters in P6 with 248. Then we have John Johnston on 242, Terry Atkinson on 202, John Kenny on 189, then Stuart Brolly on 185, Chris Moore on 139, and Sean Atkinson on 132. Jordan Hadfield on 123 points there, Michael Elms in 99, and Vincent Vaught on 38. Now looking up to your Pro-Ams then. And your Pro-Ams are as follows. We do have Dan Forster leading the way with 377 points. Lee Rylands 365. Sean Webber 325. Neil Kennedy 273. Then we have Peter Woodmore on 252. Mark Proctor on 219. Kevin Woodmore on 125. Scott Kostrick on 120. And then we have Frederic on 107. And looking on to your pros, we have Daniel Wareham on 376 points, Scott McFall on 335, Tom Bland on 316, Mark Brown on 315, Jack Holland on 289, and Raz Harper on 146. So those are your points and your standings as it is at the moment. With just under 5 seconds to go, we will be heading into race 1 of 2 here tonight. 20-minute race followed by a 5-minute short break, and then we have a 25-minute race after that. So without further ado, let's get into the racing. Then we'll bring you your grid in just a moment. That will pop up here on your screen, and we'll be able to tell you exactly how these cars are going to be lining up here this evening. Once the grid results roll through, we're just waiting for the last few cars to enter the pit lane. Apologies, I've got this set up completely wrong. For some reason I thought we were going into the race. We're not just yet. This is qualifying. I thought we were at the end of qualifying there for some reason. But I can confirm that we're not. Well, allow me to have these few moments to, one, realise where I am and what we're doing, and two, to show you this new camera angle we have. If it would stop pinging in and out. We now have the gyro cam where you can see the driver in the background racing around the circuit. I know you can't really see what's going on. That's when we make the old switch, and here comes the cars now around the track. What we're going to do is just wait for these races to get some lap times in, bring up your track map, and in just a couple of moments, once these guys have completed their initial lap, we will we'll start to see their dots show up on that track map for you. And as you can see there in the top right corner of your screen, Aqua Twist and TS Liveries are the sponsors of this season. Main sponsor being Aqua Twist, and secondary sponsor being the TS Liveries Designs. Obviously a great chance for both league and sponsor to team up together to bring some fantastic quality racing. 100% natural pure spring water for the Aqua Twist sponsor there as well. Yeah, I believe it is on all the Tanso Racing Group cars. As you can see, the TS liveries on the rear of that car where the number plate would normally be. This is John Kenny, number 90, going around the circuit at the moment. Having a few blinking issues there, but nevertheless still going around at a semi-decent speed. Now, we do have a few less drivers out there on circuit tonight. The battle between the pros is between P1 and P2, so it's guaranteed a good position for those. The biggest class out there tonight will be the AMs, with the Pro-Ams having 4 cars in selection and the AMs having 8 cars in selection there for tonight's racing. Numbers a little lower, but as to be expected as the season goes through, this normally is what happens for sim racing. It does quieten down just a little bit towards the end when people don't think they've really got anything to fight for. Some people go off and do other bits or just get ready for the next season. Nevertheless, we'll make do of what we have here today, and we do still have a decent amount of cars out there. Obviously, the Formula 1 is currently on as we speak, so no doubt that will be taking some effect in the numbers here tonight. Just waiting for first lap times to come in. Let's switch from John Kenny to this man at the moment, Lee Ryland. Coming through the S's. Kevin Woodmore is the quickest car at the moment. First one to set lap time, 2:08.765. So 2:07. Mr. Woodmore was leading the way, just been overtaken by Peter Duke, who's done a 2:07.313. So a great lap time there for him indeed. Now, I've got the lap times here up alongside me, and I can tell you at the minute the car with the time that needs the most improvement is John Kenny with a 2:13.18. Then we have John Johnson just in front of that, 2:11.26, so only a couple of seconds between those two. Then there's a couple of seconds between John Johnson and Michael Elms, who's on a 2:09.87. But the quickest time is still Peter Duke, 2:07.31. Pete Woodmore has just snuck into P2 there with a 2:08.106. So he's just crept his way up into P2. Peter Duke having cars getting close to him, but not being put under too much pressure just yet. But the person putting on the most at the moment in terms of pressure is Scott Brown, who's pushed his way up into P2 now, half a second off of your leader at the moment, with that 2:07 flat almost in his GR86. Now we are getting towards the back end of the qualifying session, heading into the last couple of minutes here. Now, if you are watching in the YouTube chat, don't forget to like the stream. Make sure you subscribe to the Tanso Racing Group YouTube channel as well, help them hit their targets, and share the stream out to anyone you think might be interested in some racing content, because we do have some good racing coming up for you here tonight. The two pros that are here with us are the two yet to set a time, but I can tell you this, they are going around the circuit at the moment. And there is one of them, Dan Wareham, P5 overall. 14 cars on the grid, so one still hasn't made the lap time. That is Mark Brown, so he is going for that top spot. The last thing in this session. Here he is on screen at the moment. Car number 343. Simtech Pro. Now, as you can see, I've coloured the numbers in this week as well. So to quickly run through the colours, you will see that your pros are listed as the blue colour. Then you have your pro-ams in the yellow and your ams in the red. Just wait for Mark Brown to complete his laps. I believe this will be Mark Brown's first lap time as well, and possibly his only lap time. I believe it does cut the drivers off during the qualifying. There goes number 343 over the line just in time. One lap wonder, where is it going to put him? P2. Not quite good enough for that P1. Peter Duke has done a fantastic job leading the way there, and that is all she wrote for qualifying. So we'll bring up your grid in just a moment. And here it is now. Peter Duke does lead the way, and he is now but leading that grid out there for the first race this evening. Mark Brown P2, Peter Woodmore P3, Scott Brown P4, Tim Malters P5, Craig Corish P6, Dan Wareham P7, Lee Rylands P8, Dan Forster P9, and Michael Walters P10, Kevin Woodmore P11, Michael Elms P12. So we'll scroll through the grid for the back row. John Johnston and John Kenny round off your grid here this evening. Just wait for your cars to all line up on the grid and get ready for some great action here in the Tanso GR86 Season 9 Aqua Twist Season. See Barney there looking for the remaining cars to get on grid. Might help if you didn't have the sunglasses on there, Barney. That might help that visual effect. So you can see the final few cars. We are just waiting on two of them. Like I say, they are three of them in fact. They are Peter Woodmore, Tim Malters and John Kenny. So once we have those three on the grid and confirm that they are ready, we will be underway here for some more racing. You can see the two pros out there on circuit. Now just run through the colours again. We have the AMs are in the reds, yellows are pro-AMs, and the pros are blue. And if you see the green line there in the top corner, which is currently on Mark Brown, that is the car of focus. And you'll see a picture of his car in the bottom left corner as well. So if you cannot find the car that we are talking about, you can match it up to the picture in the bottom left corner. Track map is up there on the right hand side as well, as we just wait for the last couple of cars to join us on a circuit here. Ready to go racing. Cars are all revving up. Gridding has been confirmed. We are down at Tim Walters, but the rest of the cars are out there and we are underway. Green flag goes out. Peter Duke gets a good start off of the line. Not the greatest of starts for Mr. Kenny, as the cars all go behind the hill. Up they come with Peter Duke still having the inside line in front of Mark Brown there. Side by side into turn one. Peter Duke having a much more shallow entry into that corner, and I think Mark Brown is going to take the advantage here as they go through turn 1 and 2. Peter Duke does still stay in front, in fact, and is having no trouble defending there as they come down the first little straight between the chicanes. I think of the word then. Using a dash cam view. And this is a view behind your leader at the moment, Peter Duke. Leading the way, you can see the massive Duke on the wing there. Just in case you forget what car we're on board with. Mark Brown just in behind, half a second at the moment. Dan Wareham in the midst of the battles here, 373. P4 just trying to go for a move on Peter Woodmore, who was blinking in and out there. I think that's possibly caused a little bit of an off track there for Mr. Wareham. Lee Rylands and Craig Corish also take the advantage. Push past Mr. Woodmore. Not sure if he thought he had issues going on himself there, and that's maybe why he slowed down. So he just slowed down quite a lot there and let quite a few cars through in that sequence of events. So we look towards Dan Forster now at the minute. Do have a car going in the pits, and that's Michael Elvis going in the pits at early doors. Dan Forster, car number 200, looking to get up the outside line at the moment. You can see the defensive position from that green car just ahead of Peter Woodmore in the 289 inside line at the moment against the 200. And Dan Forster is held to the outside, but he knows he has advantage now, and he does get his nose in front indeed and takes that position away from Mr. Woodmore. Up into P6 for Mr. Forster. Don't forget top 6 reverse grid as well, so at the minute that reverse grid P1 is currently sitting with Dan Forster, but not for much longer as he goes on the attack once more for another move upfield. Craig Corish is the car ahead and looking to defend his position here any second now, basically. So you can see the biggest pack at the minute is that mid-table pack of cars. All within a couple of tenths of each other. Peter Woodmore here, just on the back of Dan Forster. Nothing really splitting any of the cars at all, as these guys are getting a lot closer together, and there is contact between two of them there. That's going to collect. Who was that? That was Mr. Walters, I think. Michael Walters there. He was collected in that. John Johnston managed to get through scot-free. There was contact between Peter Woodmore and Scott Brown. And I think that was always going to happen, unfortunately, as these two did get rather close together. Caused a bit of an off-track for both the two. As we look towards what happened here then, Peter Woodmore on the outside line. And there is the contact there indeed, Scott Brown on the inside. And unfortunately, the collection of Mr. Walters, which sends John Johnston through. There he goes. We are on board with Peter Woodmore at the moment. Mark Brown putting in the quickest lap time. He is closing that gap as well. car ahead. Just as we jump up there, Michael Walters is actually making a move on Mr. Johnston. These two are side by side, but there's plenty of space between the two. You could probably fit tanks side by side between those two. As we go into turn 1, P8 for Michael Walters then. He did get that job done on Mr. Johnston, on the boss man himself, and pushes up from P9 to P8. Wow, between Scott Brown and Walters is well and truly on, as Scott Brown looks to get in front and has the outside line. Not going to do him much good there, but now he swings onto the inside and has plenty of room and plenty ahead of Mr. Walters at the moment. But he's instantly going to look for the attack back, the counter attack, and I think didn't get it done. No, he didn't. He's only a tenth and a half away, so not much space between the two cars. Here they come down that long downhill curve. Scott Brown still in front, so he managed to do enough defensive work to hold that position and maintain it. As, we are looking at the second closest battle out there on track at the moment. Mark Brown trying to chase down Peter Duke, but Peter Duke holding out some fantastic pace here this evening. As you can see, Scott Brown now chasing up on Kevin Woodmore, only just ahead of him in the green, light green and dark green merged livery. Scott Brown does look to up the outside line, then P11 at the moment looking to get into the top 10, and he does have his nose in front at the moment, but does Woodmore have that advantage? He does at the minute on the inside line, holds the inside, but can Scott Brown keep that momentum going around the outside and hold it side by side? So the next corner he'll have the advantage. He doesn't, but can he break away now? No, he doesn't at all. So he can't keep that nose side by side, and unfortunately it doesn't give him any advantage to take involving getting a position further up the grid. So you see Scott Brown still in this sandwich at the moment. Let's look on towards Peter Duke then, who unfortunately has lost the lead. Now let's see exactly how he lost the lead. It was on the start, finish straight. As you can see, Mark Brown basically bump drafted him all the way up, just beyond the start-finish line. As he has the outside line, but he's well and truly in front of Pete Duke's car there. Pete Duke on the brakes a little earlier than what people would have thought. As you can see, his car really crouched down, and through turn 1, Mark Brown does take that race lead away. Mark Brown currently leading the race. Peter Duke in hot pursuit at the moment in the white, orange and black car, number 77, that you can see on your screens at the moment. We jump towards Tim Walters on the back of this 3-car pack. And car number 66 has a bit of work to do. Try and get in front. He hasn't managed to get the job done on Scott Brown yet, but plenty of time left to go. We still have just over 50% of this race left to go, and it's quite a lengthy race, to be fair, with the amount of drivers we have out on track at the moment. There's plenty of space for these guys to really take the fight to each other. As we see there, Tim Walters P12 at the moment, looking to send it 3 wide. He is going to do that indeed, as these guys go 3 wide into turn 1. There's contact there between Woodmore and Brown, and Tim Walters does back off, and actually Woodmore comes out the better out of those 3, as he did go 3 wide into that first turn of the circuit. Still nothing changes between these 3 though. They come out the same positions they went into. Scott Brown at the moment then chasing on the back of Pete Woodmore still. Nothing has changed between these two. Just the cars keeping nice and close together. John Johnson at the minute having a nice steady race in P9. He needs to be careful because Kevin Woodmore is slowly catching up on the rear end of that, and then you've got that group of Scott Brown and Tim Walters just behind as well, and they're looking to gain any positions they can from any slip-ups from any cars just ahead. As you can see at the minute, John Johnson is almost getting swallowed up by this battle in behind. Scott Brown and Woodmore taking it side by side now up the home straight. Walters just on the back. He's backed off just a little bit, but this is going to go 3 wide. And John Johnson on the outside line then. And there's contact between the two, and they've collected John Johnson, unfortunately. And all 3 cars have ended up into the wall. And I think poor Mr. Johnson having a good little race there, and then to be caught up by the 2 cars that have had probably the most contact out of anyone this evening, of Scott Brown and Kevin Woodmore. Unfortunately, Kevin Woodmore looks to move now, but a bit late for the old movement there, but plenty of time before P14. Michael Elms just a little further back. Michael Elms not starting the race on the grid, I don't believe. He was the car we were missing. In fact, no, he wasn't. I'm lying. Ignore me. But unfortunate for this man here on your camera then at the moment. This is John Johnson. Not the most ideal situation for him. Foot straight back down and back underway once more. As you can see, these cars really have spread out now, and there's no close gaps between them. Just as I say that, Craig Corish is starting to get into that territory of overtaking as he closes the gap to Lee Rylands just ahead. We're about to breach into the 13th minute of 27 left to go for these races. As it stands at the moment, Dan Forster has the magic position. He's got plenty of space between him and P7, so he doesn't have to worry about any attacks. But any slip-ups from any of the cars in front, and he may score an overtake, but that's not going to have him on pole position. He will be on the front row, however, if he makes one overtake. P6 and P5, that reverse grid, that'll put them two first on the front row. So Dan Forster and Craig Corish at the minute. Craig Corish being one of the cars we're following at the moment. The blue car, number 13, he will be P2. Kevin Woodmore unfortunately jumping to the pits. As Craig Corish still P5 overall at the minute, looking to try and gain that position on the car ahead. And speaking of gaining position on the car ahead, John Johnson catching up to Mr. John Kenny at the moment then. John Kenny P11. John Johnson wants that P11 and is going to fight to get it as well, as John Kenny holds the outside line and Mr. Johnson goes up the inside, both being extra cautious when overtaking each other. And John Johnson does take that position away from Mr. Kenny, who jumps down to P12. Nice awareness from both the drivers, plenty of respect between those two as well. So jump back to Craig Corish in a minute. Car number 13, P5, just behind Lee Rylands, who's P4 overall. Craig Corish really closing down that gap now, so there's not much in it between himself and Lee Rylands, and obviously these two know it, but whoever finishes in that P5 is on the front row of the grid for race 2, so they've got a lovely advantage into the second race there. But at a minute it's Craig Corish, however he doesn't want to sell off that, he wants to move up and go another position. And he looks to do that now as he sweeps towards the inside line of Lee Ryland's end. Lee Ryland's holds towards the outside, one toe on the rumble strips, and there goes Craig Corrish into the corner nice and early, takes that momentum through, and finds himself on the inside of the next turn as well. So he's on a defensive move now from Lee Rylands and manages to hold the position. He's moved up into P4, Lee Rylands down to P5. So those two have switched around. Here is your battle box then. That'll show you the overtakes and people that have been overtaken. As you can see at the minute, Peter Duke is only down one position, Mark Brown up one position, so those two have swapped over. Dan Wareham having the most overtakes at the moment this race, up 4 cars from the starting grid place. Lee Rylands, Dan Forster both doing the same on 3 each, and Craig Corrish has just made his second overtake of this race as well. So plenty of action for all these drivers out there tonight. There may not be a load of them, but there's certainly enough action for themselves out there. As you see, 3 tenths is all that splits Lee Rylands and Craig Corrish. This is the view from the nose of Lee Ryland's car. On the front camera mount, buried within the front bumper. Minute, Peter Duke not quite close enough to your leader, not quite in striking distance as of yet for the number 77. Heading in and around turn 1 now. There is your leader on screen then at the moment. Mark Brown does lead the way after getting 1 overtake this race, and that overtake is all that he's needed to jump up into that P1 spot. So far, only having Kevin Woodmore out. The rest of the cars still going around the circuit as it stands at the moment. You can roughly tell from the left-hand side on the standings of who is in the lead, but let's show you your class leaders then as we go into the last minute and a half of this first race. Mark Brown obviously leads the way of the race overall, but also in the lead of the pros, and Peter Duke is in P2 overall, but he has the lead of the AMs at the moment, and Lee Ryland, who's currently P5, and he is in the lead for the Pro AMs. So they are your class leaders as it is at the moment. And by the looks of it, that's how it's going to remain towards the end of this race as well, as we have breached the last minute of this race. So this will be, I believe, the penultimate lap. There is the white flag as they come across the line. There goes Lee Rylands chasing down Craig Corrish to try and get that P4 back, just outside the podium spots for Craig Corrish at the moment. Don't forget, we will have a 5-minute warm-up race just after this, and those 5 minutes will be prime time to go get drinks and pop to the toilet, do whatever else you need to do to relax before the second race this evening. Extra 5 minutes added on to the timer then as well. 25-minute race coming up for you before we end off this evening with any interviews should the drivers wish to do so, and then we shut down for the night and another week of racing. Lee Ryland really has closed that gap now to 3/10. That is all that splits the two cars. That's bounced up to 4. Can you get any closer? It doesn't look like it's going to happen before the end of the race. Speaking of the race, here is your race leader. On board view from him. Nearly awful wide there at the moment we jumped onto it. Touching into the gravel. Here he is coming up to the final turn then, your race leader at the moment and soon to be race winner 3-4-3 Mark Brown for the SimTech Pro team. Light tap of the brakes there as he brings that front end around on to the start finish straight. 1 second splits him and P2, just under that now at the moment. But it's not going to be enough for Peter Duke to get the overtake as Mark Brown does take the race victory there. Peter Duke P2, Dan Wareham P3. And Am splitting the pros at the top of the field then. Lee Rollins is on the front row of the grid for the reverse grid start. Dan Fawcett is going to take that reverse grid P1 as well. Fortunately, Peter Woodmore and Michael Walters just missing out on that as they come across the line. Here comes Tim Walters as well. As we just wait for the remainder of the cars to cross the line. Scott Brown is the next one across. There he goes now. John Johnson is up next. Difficult race for Mr. Johnson, still up 2 positions from where he started. However, he got collected in that incident on the start straight, which unfortunately ended him up into the wall. And John Kenny, next one across the line. Before we just wait on Michael Elm. So Barney's arm is going to get a little bit tired as we just wait for Michael Elms to cross the line to round off race 1. Bring you your results and we'll go into your 5-minute warm-up or cool-down. And here he comes then in the Red Bull livery. Number 50, Michael Elms across the line. And that rounds off your race 1. And we look to bring you your results here then. Mark Brown did finish P1 overall. And, oh, thank you very much. Peter Duke P2, Dan Wareham P3, Craig Corish P4, Lee Rylands P5, Dan Forster P6, Peter Woodmore P7, Michael Walters P8, Tim Walters P9, Scott Brown P10, John Johnson P11, John Kenny P12, Michael Elms P13, Kevin Woodmore rounds off your grid in P14. Now what we're going to do is we are going to switch over to a blank screen, and that will be the thumbnail screen. And we'll be back once the 5 minutes has lapsed. As you can see, we're 40 seconds into it already. So commentary will resume here closer to the end of that 5 minutes. So we'll see you very, very shortly. Well, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to your second race this evening. As we wait to bring you your grid for the second race. And here it is as follows. Dan Forster leads the way. Lee Rylands P2, Craig Corish P3, Dan Wareham P4, Peter Duke P5. Then we have P6 for Mark Brown. And P7 Peter Woodmore, Michael Walters P8, Tim Waters P9, and then Scott Brown P10, John Johnson P11, John Kenny P12, and then going just a bit further down, Michael Elms P13, Kevin Woodmore P14. Now, there is your race leader, Dan Forster, car number 200. Getting that reverse grid P1. Just wait for remaining cars. And in fact, we are gridding now. Lights are up. Cars are revving and we are underway. There goes the green flag. Good start for Peter Duke. They're getting an overtake on the line, and same for this man back here. And that is Michael Elms in the Red Bull livery there. Jumping straight up some positions as we bring the battle box to you straight away, and same with the track map as well. You'll see there Michael Elms up 3 positions straight away, just out of the straight on the start. So a great start for that Red Bull livery car as he heads through the first couple of turns. Just behind Tim Walters on this fantastic start for him. And a bit of an off track there for Mark Brown. Unfortunately had that off track there, and it's caused him several positions. So he's dropping down the order at the moment. Mark Brown looking to take a position back off Woodmore just ahead. That's Kevin Woodmore, there he is. This is the view behind him at the moment. Just off of that gearbox of Kevin Woodmore is Mark Brown. Scott Brown just in behind that battle of the Browns, but there he is, Mark right on the rear bumper of Kevin Woodmore's car. Smoke there in the distance. That's Peter Duke that we could see there in the background, unfortunately sitting off the track. Has now rejoined. And there's a spin there as well. For I believe that was Scott Brown that had that slight hiccup there. I believe that was Scott Brown having a slight spin, which has sent him down beyond Mr. Woodmore and the other Brown of Mark. As we see John Johnson on the outside, then almost making it 3 cars wide as Woodmore looked to take a position back there, and he does jump up into P10 with Dan Wareham leading the way at the moment. Michael Elms going down the grid, and this is why, facing the wrong way on the circuit, unfortunately off the track. Let's have a little look at what happened to Michael Elms. Oh, he hit the sausage curb, sent him round, and unfortunately no way back for him there. The moment the car starts to go, that is it. As Mark Brown goes up one more spot, thanks to Tim Walters, who does try and hold the inside line, but Mark Brown has more than enough experience to keep that momentum up behind the outside. And Kevin Woodmore looks to take the advantage from the wake, should we say, created by Mark Brown, but unfortunately can't get his car in front of Tim Walters. Here is your leader, Dan Wareham, number 373, currently with 6/10 gap between him and Lee Rylands. See at the minute, Craig Corish is the car closing the gap to those ahead as he gets closer and closer to Michael Walters every passing second, as Craig Corish has put in the quickest lap time, 2 minutes 7.449, so fantastic lap time for him indeed. See there, a bit of an off track for a couple of cars, going just a bit too far over the rumble strips onto the gravel, with all the dust and dirt kicking up from these GR86s. They do make a hell of a mess after going a bit off track for such small cars, and already that 5 minutes that we did have extra has already lapsed and gone by, so now these are down into the last 20 already, so it's like how we were with the first race. Don't forget, if you missed any of the action this season, you can catch all of it on the Tanso Racing Group YouTube channel. You can watch it all back into any of the parts you wish, any of the races you wish, the key moments in the season as well, with all the overtakes and everything being all provided via every live stream. Speaking of overtakes, Mark Brown looking to get up the inside of Forster, and he does so indeed, and an audacious move as he took that inside line and profited big time from it, as he now finds himself in front of those two cars that he's been sticking around for quite a while, Tim Walters and Dan Forster. Now finding himself in front, he can start to close the gap on the cars that are a little further up the road, 2 seconds. I'll get it out in a second. 2.4 seconds up the road. The cars ahead of Mark Brown. There's a bit of a slip up there for Mark Brown, almost sending it into a spin and taking it 3 wide as well. Tim Walters on the outside. They got Dan Forster on the inside, who has gone through and got past Mark Brown. That's Mark Brown with the golden rims just behind, and that brings in Mr. Woodmore as well. Kevin Woodmore, that is, just behind Tim Walters. This is the onboard view, the helmet cam from Kevin Woodmore. You can really see how much of the curb you can cut there on that right-hander before the left-hander downhill. As Tim Walters does rejoin the track, but that's going to cost him a little bit there. As you can see, Kevin Woodmore getting right up on the back end of that car, as they're almost touching now between the two. This is the view behind Tim Walters at the moment. There is Kevin Woodmore that we were on board with, just behind the wing of the white car, Tim Walters. Looking up the inside is Mr. Woodmore, and up the inside he goes in front, and fight back is instantly on for Tim Walters, but not going to get the position back anytime soon. as we look towards the other Woodmore just up the grid. P3 overall at the moment. But he's second in his class. That's second in the Pro-Ams. As you can see, he does look towards the inside of Lee Ryland's car there and gets on the brakes a little late. You can see his car really kneeling down, so that shows you how hard he is on the brakes into turn 1, as he was sitting up the inside. Now he's going to have the outside line due to the way of the track, and Lee Ryland is able to maintain his position. But how long for, as Woodmore looks up the inside once again? This is just going to increase the gap to Dan Wareham ahead, as he's going to start pulling off into the distance. Craig Corish getting involved in the background as well, in P4 overall. We have Peter Woodmore at the moment in this sandwich. P3 at the moment. That bottom step of the podium, 282 of Lee Rylands just in front of him on that middle step of the podium, with Craig Corish and Michael Wattles just outside the podium places, but not that far away at all. It's still within touching distance. It's the 289 of Mr. Woodmore, looking to progress up the field. You can see a 1.8 second gap is all that splits the cars, as same for Tim Walters there as well, P9. All cars still out on the field and still going around the circuit. So you can see side by side now for Woodmore as he pushes up the inside line into P2. Can he hold that position though? He's on the start finish straight. Who's going to have the momentum? Is it going to be sent 3 wide? It looks like it is, as Craig Corish is right up on the outside line for turn 1. The advantage going to Mr. Lee Rylands there, who has claimed that P2 back, but these guys are going to be 3 wide all the way up the back straight. And there's contact there between Woodmore and Corish, as Woodmore does go towards the outside line. Corish looks up the inside of turn 1, instantly going to be thrown to the outside line. Here's the onboard view with Woodmore at the moment. See the sausage curbs coming into play there for Lee Rylands, and Woodmore does take advantage there and moves on up position into P2. Lee Ryland's going to have to slot in. Unfortunately, he conceded in 2 positions there. Craig Corish moves up onto the podium spots in P3 now. 11 minutes and 40 seconds gone out of the 25, so not long left at all now, as we head into the last 13 minutes of this race. Just a little under the 15 minutes you'd normally have with an official race in this class and series. So you see Pete Woodmore at the moment, P2. In front of that group of cars, Tim Walters here, number 66 on the back of the other Woodmore car of Kevin Woodmore, 207. So you can see he gets really close up behind the car of Mr. Woodmore, hunting down that PA, but you've got to be careful. Peter Duke is just in the background, and Duke is a very quick racer indeed. John Johnson at the moment having some fun with Kevin Woodmore. He did have the little off track there. And I can bring to you now, ladies and gentlemen, just in a moment. In fact, Scott Brown does get the overtake done on Mr. Woodmore, and he pushes up one more spot. But I can inform you now that the last 2 weeks of the Tanso Racing Group GR86 Season 9 has been released. We do know where the last 2 tracks are going to be, and that is Okayama, the full circuit, and then Mount Panorama as well. So they are the last 2 rounds of this season of Season 9, sponsored by Aquatwist. So it is all fun and games now, right up until the very end. At the moment, Craig Corish still in amongst the mix, and he's always been amongst the battles for number 13, as he's just sitting in behind Peter Woodmore. Dan Wareham not having much to worry about. Not out in front at the moment. P1 for Dan Wareham, almost 3.5 seconds lead ahead of Peter Woodmore, who's in P2, and Craig Corish in P3. Now your top 3 cars overall are your class leaders as well for each class. And to illustrate that, look at the top of your screens. You've got Dan Wareham obviously leading the race. He's the leader of the pros. Then you've got Peter Woodmore P2, who's leader of the Pro-Ams. And you've got Craig Corish P3, who's leader of the AMs. Speaking of Craig Corish, him and Peter Woodmore are taking the fight to each other, and that is bringing the other cars into play as well. Lee Ryland's just in behind that P4. Michael Walters and Mark Brown are not too far away either. Those two having their own little battle. As we are now down inside the last 10 minutes of this racing session. Look towards Kevin Woodmore, who at the minute is P12 overall, up 2 positions from his starting grid position, and he's not too far away from the rear end of Mr. John Johnston as well. This is a view from Mr. Johnston's car, under pressure straight away from Kevin Woodmore in that green livery 207. Looking to try and get by and then chase down Scott Brown, who's just in front of these two at the moment. Not too far up the road, number 58, Scott Brown. You can see there, all within one frame, all within one camera shot. As you can see, John Johnson unfortunately conceding the position to Kevin Woodmore, who does push up into P11. As we look towards Peter Woodmore then. In turn 1, Craig Corish has taken the initiative and gone up into P2 via the inside line, and Woodmore's going to hold that inside line through the next couple of turns. And the sausage code almost caught him out there as he comes around those at quite high speed as well. You can see the car bouncing around as I would say he struggled for grip, but he maintained that quite well going through there. looking towards Mark Brown 343, up one position at the moment, P5, but he's putting all kinds of attacks on Lee Rylands and trying to throw his front end up both inside and outside Lee Rylands' car, almost as a bit of scare tactics to try and put him off of his line and force a mistake. As you can see, Lee Rylands on the battle box there, down 2 positions from his starting grid place. Pete Woodmore P3 at the moment. You can see him taking a wide line, and he's actually on the outside line there of Craig Corish, who's going to have the inside advantage. But remember, if Peter Woodmore can hold it, he'll have the advantage going through into turn 2. Well, he can't, but he goes for the switchback, and that is going to put him on the outside line now, so at the disadvantage for the second turn. Now, can he hold it here? He does indeed. So he's held it in a place that not many people would expect him to, as he pushes up into P2 and maintains that spot, as Craig Corish now does drop to P3 overall. Bottom podium spot for Mr. Corish then, as we breach the 20th minute mark. Just under 5 to go here for the GR86s around the Mugello racing circuit before this evening's racing has completed, and Craig Corish unfortunately spinning around, and I think the same for Mark Brown there as well. Both cars spun around, and one facing the wrong way, the other one reversing out on track. Oh, contact there between the two, as Mark Brown does have contact there with not too sure who that was actually. Dan Forster maybe? I think that was Dan Forster in fact he had contact with. There is Dan Forster, number 200, getting back underway. Mark Brown, who is up the road at the moment, unfortunately having contact with him on his rejoin there. Not the most ideal situation for either driver really, and maybe the stewards will have a look into that one on the unsafe rejoin there. Michael Walters creeping up onto the back of the podium spots then, just behind Lee Rylands. You can see there white, red and blue livery, the Tanso Racing Group livery, with their sponsors on of the Aqua Twist and the livery designs as well. There goes the number 84, Michael Walters, representing the USA. Flying around this circuit of Mugello at the minute, P4 overall. Peter Duke looks to get the overtake done, but on the outside line, gets on the brakes, you know, much that car kneels down. He does swing round onto the inside line. He has that position easily there, beyond Tim Walters. Oh, I think that was a bit of Tim Walters being a bit too respectful and offering Peter Duke a bit too much space, and unfortunately he concedes the position. However, sticks onto his rear end like glue. See, Scott Brown at the moment is the closest car to another vehicle out there on track at the moment. Scott Brown with his wipers going, unsure why. Probably a bit of dirt on the windscreen. I think they're automatic when you get a bit of dirt and rubbish on that old windscreen on any of these cars now. You see that quite regularly, both in the GR86s and I've seen it in the TCRs as well. Now Tim Walters at the moment doing all he can to catch up to Peter Duke, but there's not much time left as we look towards your leader, who's now going past the pit lane. And there is your white flag for your leader as they come across the line. A little bit of a battle going on here then between these two. Peter Duke in front of Tim Walters at the moment, but Tim Walters is taking the fight to him. Last lap of the race this evening then. As you see, number 77 there is a little bit further in front now and a bit more comfortable in front of Tim Walters than what he was just a few seconds ago. 4 tenths is all that splits the two cars though. Now that jumps up to 5 and 6 through those turns there. So a little quicker for Mr. Duke. As you see, Dan Forster at the moment, side by side pretty much. With Mr. Johnston, number 55 there, up 2 positions from a starting grid position. Unfortunately, Dan Forster down 9. Now make that 8. As he does get the overtake done on Mr. Johnston. Number 200 does clear through. Around the chicanes, now heading towards the back end of the circuit. For the final time this evening. Let's check in with your leader, Dan Wareham, 373. Going around into the last couple of turns here, these slight turns on this straight. Now one more corner to go before Dan Wareham gets a victory under his belt and another victory at that as well. And there he goes round the final corner. There is the checkered flag from Barney. There is the flashing of the lights for Mr. Dan Wareham. And no mistakes for spinning out across the line this week like we saw last week out. As we see Dan Wareham come across the line in P1. Peter Woodmore P2. Lee Rylands P3. Michael Walters just missing on the podium P4. However, he does get that P1 for his class. And wow, that's a close finish between those two there. Mark Brown and Scott Brown. 0.046 of a second apart from each other. Fantastic racing between those two. Ultra close. Nothing split the two as they came across the line, as we just wait for one John Kenny, who's coming up any second now. P11 overall for John Kenny. Not a bad finish for him. At 1 position from starting grid position. As we thank Barney very much for the flag waving there. And we bring you your results of Heat 2 then. So Dan Wareham did finish P1 and Peter Woodmore P2 overall, but he won his class of the Pro-Ams as well there. Lee Rylands P3 and then Michael Walters P4. Just missing out on podium, however, he got that P1 for his class of the AMS. Then we've got Peter Duke P5. Tim Walters P6, Scott Brown P7, Dan Forster P8, John Johnson P9, Mark Brown P10, John Kenny P11, Kevin Woodmore P12, Craig Corish P13, Michael Elms P14 overall. So there are your race results for this evening, ladies and gentlemen. That does conclude your racing for this evening as well. 2 more rounds left to go before this season does come to its conclusion. And those 2 courses have been revealed to you. If you don't know what they were, or you weren't here when I said which tracks we'll be visiting, I can remind you of those now. We are going to Okayama, the full course, next round out on June 16th. Followed by June 23rd, we are at Mount Panorama. So keep your calendars clear. Make sure you're available and get yourselves involved there. But what we're going to do is jump into an interview with Mr. Mark Brown. Welcome in, sir. How are we doing?
Yes, thanks, Callum.
Well, what an interesting second race that was for you.
Yeah, not exactly as a plan, in fairness. First one went to plan all right. Sort of you would be up there, being Peter. it was interesting now. The second race, got a good enough start up into third from sixth, I think, and then just lost the tail a wee bit, and then trying to fight my way back through it again. Yeah, I think I landed back to, was it 10th or 11th, something like there. Got my way, started catching the boys there and fighting my way. I was hoping to get back up into second, but yeah, I thought there was a bit more room between me and Craig, and just wasn't. And unfortunately, spun myself in the midst of it, like. But yeah, unfortunate. But yeah, I got the first win, so wasn't too bad.
Yeah, not a terrible result for you this evening, to be fair. Second race, may have not gone exactly to the blueprint, but it was a decent night overall for you for the points as well. And obviously, I'm assuming you know the next two tracks we go to, which is Okayama Full and the Mount Panorama. Are you looking forward to the last two rounds this season?
Maybe not Mount Panorama, Panorama in fairness, but Okayama, yeah, it should be good. The mountain, yeah, it could be a lot of carnage.
Yeah, I know it's not everyone's favourite, and there is a lot of tricky and tight turns around that as well at quite high speed. But some decent racing. There was a little bit of a coming together though between yourself and another SimTech car out there. Now,
Oh yeah, like I to be honest, I was watching my relative and I thought it was clean, and I started to turn around because all the rest of the boys are gone, and I was like, oh shit! I just see Dan coming over the crest of the hill. I was like, oh crap! And I tried to dart to the opposite side to the grass, hoping he would miss me because I was already starting to move, and I thought, right, could he get in behind me? And yeah, unfortunate. I did apologize to Dan for that because I didn't see him coming, but yeah, it wasn't intentional. I sort of did check and I seen no one coming, but yeah, just one of them things, I suppose.
it's all part of the sim racing experience, I guess. But yeah, not a terrible evening. The grid was a little lighter than normal, but did that kind of have a different feel to it this evening? With a lighter number for the grid spots, or was that sort of encouraging a bit more sort of door to
Uh,
door racing?
I don't know. It wasn't too bad. Like I know it was a bit later on the field this evening. But this track here, it was very fast flowing. So I don't. No one could really get away out ahead. So yeah, Daniel had a good lead in the second race, but with the whole draft and everything, it's a very fast flowing track. As long as you can get your corners, your apexes, and all the rest of the right, you can do enough to keep ahead. Same thing down the pit straight there. Like it's touch and go, just getting enough draft to try and get past someone. So um, yeah, I had fun there with Peter in the first race with the draft. He just couldn't couldn't repeat it. I was kind of thinking, do I sit behind him and wait for the last lap because it was sort of if we were going to keep swapping positions down the pit straight, uh, I was sort of thinking, yeah, maybe just sitting behind him for the second last lap and try and get ahead of him. But yeah, I thought he might have come back again. He had a wee look once or twice, but yeah, you sort of need to be in that sort of half a second or lower range to try and make any sort of an attempt to get out into turn one. But yeah, it was interesting enough racing now. But can't complain, like, so it's all what it is, what it is. So I apologise to Dan and Craig there, so I do, but yeah, it's a bit unfortunate. But yeah, well, hopefully Okayama might be a bit better, a bit cleaner. Hopefully a better, a fuller grid, maybe, you never know, but sort of coming into that sort of time of year now too, so I will see how we get on.
Yeah, it's going to be one of them things. But I did also realise just before we went live here tonight that the F1 was still on as well. So no doubt a lot of people were probably watching that at the
Yeah,
same
I know. I
time.
was kind of sort of wondering what way it was going myself. I'm going to rush down now and watch it.
Well, I can tell you this: it was a good race as well. A bit unfortunate with the result for some of the people, but it was a good race. But
No spoilers.
no, I'm not. I'm not gonna give that away to you. But no, no, no. It was all good racing here tonight, and as always, I will give you the floor to do any shout outs or thank yous you wish to do so before I let you on your way.
Yeah, thanks for you for the live stream, for Tanso and the group of boys is here. Makes it all interesting, and a couple of good racers in there too. So I apologise, Craig, and whoever else I managed to take out this evening. But yeah, thank you very much for it, and take care.
Thank you, and we'll see you again next week out for Okayama.
Yeah, good luck. Take care.
And next one in will be Dan Forster. Now, Mr. Dan, welcome in. How are we doing, sir?
Doing well. Well, I say doing well. Had a bit of a nightmare there, but yeah, that's how it goes.
Now, obviously, there was a little coming together between you and Mark Brown. Give us your thoughts on that and what happened in the heat of the moment.
Well, I just came round, saw him parked in the middle of the track and thought he was stationary and thought I'd go behind him, and he obviously didn't realise I was coming and went back. And it was just an accident. He didn't mean to do anything. He apologised and everything, and it was one of them. I don't think I actually ended up losing any class positions as a result of it anyway. I was already far back through my own idiocy, so there's no real harm done, to be honest.
No, it was a tricky situation, and there's not much you could have done to really avoid it either. With such sort of last second movements and coming up the speed you were downhill, there's nothing you can really do in that situation.
Thankfully, no damage meant I was just back on track, and like I said, I didn't lose any class positions. I was already well down the order from before then, so like I say, no harm done.
But a podium spot in the Pro-Am though, so that's always good. You're still on a podium there for your class.
Yeah, but I threw it all away. I threw the podium for the second race away by making a mistake on cold tyres, and that didn't end up helping me for the second race. I mean, I'm slow around this track, so I've been doing some upgrades to my rig and stuff, and I haven't been able to race that much this week. And with it being week 13 and not having the practice on the PCC like we normally do, I really haven't had as much practice as I would have liked on this track, and I'm just really slow around here, and so I just couldn't get any pace. So congratulations to the other lads. They must have either just be inherently faster than me, or just have have had more practice, or just have more pace. But yeah, I couldn't find my groove tonight.
That was an unlucky night for you, but nevertheless,
in fact, I think Lee might have taken the top spot of the Pro-Ams off this race. I think, but it was pretty close.
Lee was P2. Peter Woodmore was P1 for the Pro-Ams.
No. I mean, as far as the actual standings are concerned,
okay.
The league. I think two races of Lee beating my position would mean that I would now fall to second position, I think, in the Pro-Ams. I'm not sure because the results haven't been posted, but it was pretty close. So congratulations to Lee and Peter. Yeah, there was some fast guys out there tonight.
Well, next question for you will be, the next two rounds have been released, Okayama Full, then Mount Panorama. What are your feelings towards those tracks? Are you looking forward to it?
Okay, Okayama, obviously, I think is a nice track. I wouldn't say I've got very much experience in the GR in it. Mount Panorama, I've never driven it in the GR, and I'm not really a massive fan. Probably a skill issue, but I'm not really a massive fan in other faster cars either, because I think it's a very dangerous track. If you don't get it right, there's going to be absolute carnage there, I think, but we shall see. Coming down the mountain is a scary thing. If you're out of control, then it's just you're rolling the dice as to what happens.
Yeah, you certainly are. It's going to be an interesting one from the commentary point of view as well, but I look forward to it even more from that stance. But as always, I'll give you the floor to do any thank yous and shout outs you wish to do so before I let you depart here this evening.
Oh yeah, just thanks to Tanso and yourself and the sponsors, Aquatwist and is it TTL Livery Designs? And yeah, thanks to everyone for a good race, and I hope it continues.
Well, thank you very much, and we look forward to seeing you next round out at Okayama Full. So have a good week off and enjoy your practice, and we'll see you again next week for some more fantastic racing.
Yeah, you too. Thanks a lot.
Now, ladies and gentlemen, that is going to conclude our interviews for this evening. This is also going to conclude our coverage for this evening as well. That is going to be it for the Tanso Racing Group. Round 6, just 2 more rounds to go. Round 7 at Okayama, round 8 at Mount Panorama, and that is where our champions will be crowned officially, as that'll be the last round of the season. And there'll be no more after that, so we look forward to those, and what a race that will be, round and down the mountain. And if the grid is anything like what we've seen tonight, the action certainly will be tight, and there will be a lot of people getting in the mix, and potentially some carnage as well. So all good things yet to come, and a lot of things to look forward to as well. But we hope each and every one of you has a fantastic week off. And until next Sunday for some more GR86 racing, stay safe, enjoy your practice, and have a fantastic week. See you again very, very soon. Thank you, and goodbye.